Every successful organization begins with its people. At Incredible Workplaces, we help you build workplaces that inspire, engage, and endure. Recognition starts with certification. Our globally benchmarked evaluation celebrates organizations that foster engagement, inclusivity, and innovation. Certification is more than a badge. It's proof that your culture empowers people to excel. Through consulting, we partner with organizations to transform cultures, strengthen leadership, and build workplaces that adapt, innovate, and thrive. Your story deserves to be heard. With our employer branding solutions, we showcase your culture through featured videos, exclusive events, and media spotlights, ensuring you attract and retain top talent with pride. From recognition to transformation and employer branding, our services create workplaces that inspire people and elevate businesses. Are you ready to transform your workplace into a beacon of excellence? Partner with Incredible Workplaces today.
Thanks a lot, Incredible Workplace, for this recognition. Thank you.
I'm proud to be Incredible Workplaces.
I'm proud to share that MB Informatics has been certified as an Incredible Workplace.
Feeling proud to be recognized as Incredible Workplace certified.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Voices That Lead. My name is Mayank Ahuja. It is a privilege to have all of you, all the audience with us today, and an honor to be moderating this conversation alongside an exceptional panel of HR leaders who bring with them a wealth of experience, insights, and diverse perspectives. They say culture eats strategy for breakfast, but can culture also drive business results? That's exactly we are going to explore today as we discuss the ROI of workplace culture with some of the finest HR leaders in the industry. With that, I request Manan to please bring everyone on stage. Welcome, Anas. Welcome, Uruz, Vinita.
Thank you.
Welcome, all of you. It will be great to start with. It will be great if we can just start with a small introduction from all of you so that we can start the questions. So we can start with you, Manas.
Hi, good evening, all. This is Manas. I am representing Keller. We are into geotechnical space, one of the largest MNC in globally present. We do ground improvement and heavy foundation. And coming to me, I am into serving people from last 20 years or so. Prior to that, part of SR Group, then Covanta Group, and looking forward to have a very enlightening discussion moderated by Mayank. Thank you.
Thank you, Manas. Vinita, if you can.
Thank you. Yeah. I work as Regional HR Director at Sachin Cooperman, India. It is a GCC with headquarters in New York. We operate in professional services space. And about myself, I bring over 18 years of experience across various sectors. I have worked prior to Sachin Cooperman, I worked with Grant Thornton and in the media sector, financial services, so American Express, Kotak Mahindra, Hindustan Times, Grant Thornton. So I worked in these organizations and I'm currently with Sachin Cooperman, and I look forward to the discussion today. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Such rich experience, Vinita. Rajiv, it will be great if you can introduce, just tell us something about yourself, about our audience, about yourself to our audience. Rajiv, are you able to hear us? I think there's some technical glitch. So we'll come back to Rajiv. Uru, if you can.
Sure. Thank you, Mayank, for handing over the baton. Good evening to one and all and to the lovely audience. My name is Aruj Fatma. I'm representing Bakados Energy Markets India. We're a consulting firm dedicated to the power sector, the energy domain, and the environment sector. I have about 23 years of experience spanning various industries such as IT, ITES, real estate, the power sector, the manufacturing domain. I'm also an IR specialist. I basically specialize in handling workplace matters and providing amicable solutions to the organizations. And today I look forward to interacting with all the distinguished panelists and sharing my ideas and thoughts with each one of you. So thank you so much.
Excellent. Excellent, Uruj. Excellent. Wonderful. IT, yes. So many. I mean, we have people across from across all the industries. So that's wonderful. So Rajiv, I think somehow we can't see you somehow. So are you able to hear us? I think there's some challenge over there with Rajiv with the. I think it must be technology. It must be the network because he's very much with us, but somehow he's disconnected. So I think in some time from now he'll connect with us again. So great. So let's start the discussion. So my first question is from Vinita. Vinita, you may have seen that many organizations say that culture is our biggest asset. We have heard it a lot. But how can we actually measure the return on investment on culture beyond the employee engagement scores? Vinita, you're on mute. No.
Sorry. Yeah. Am I audible now? Okay.
Yes,
So no,
yes,
thanks
yes.
for
Very much
that question, Mayank. So when we talk about the ROI of culture, often we see that the conversation begins and ends with the employee engagement scores. But culture is much bigger than engagement. I would equate culture to the operating system of an organization where it shapes how people make decisions, collaborate, innovate, or service clients, and ultimately how the business goals are delivered. So you started by saying culture eats strategy for breakfast. So this is a famous quote, and I think this clearly says, and what it means is that while strategy can tell us where we want to go, but it is culture that can determine if we are able to get there. So I think
right.
that's where the significance of culture lies, and I think culture is one of the few investments which creates value across every time horizon. And that is where I see this. This is very, very special and unique when you compare to other investments, just to show the value that culture brings. If you look at today, say financial investments or technology investment, there will always be some time before you can start to see some meaningful returns or adoption translating into productivity. But when it comes to culture, you will see that the returns that we see are almost instantly. uh, so how it happens when the leadership decides that they need to put focus in the culture, people can see a genuine commitment from the leadership. And that's where the intent at that stage, the very first stage, begins to change how people feel about the organization. And that's where I mean that the immediate change comes in, right, in the way people feel about the culture part. In the short term, the return that you see is much stronger. It is in the form of stronger engagement, higher morale, better collaboration, and even people would like to stretch, go beyond, and put in discretionary effort. So in the short term, you're able to see that people are more willing to contribute, support each other, solve problems. And when you compound these behaviors over the longer term, that's where you get to
Right.
see the measurable business outcomes. Stronger people retention, better experience of your clients, higher productivity, greater innovation, stronger leadership pipelines. And all of this results in your financial metrics, better performance on those benchmarks. So I would say that culture is definitely the focal point of any organization. It is that binding force that will always be a constant in this ever changing ecosystem, which can make organizations progress and provide that compelling value proposition or the compelling advantage in this talent space. So yeah, I think that's how I would articulate how ROI can be determined on the culture. So that's from me.
Right, Vinita. Of course, very nicely said that. Of course, I think you connected culture with the direct deliverables of the organization and the success of the organizations. And of course, we should remember that culture with any case, in any case, will be built. Even if nobody is focusing on culture, then also there will be some kind of culture, which is of course not. It is not going to help the organization in the longer run, but shorter run. I mean, things go haywire at times, wherein even the culture is not that great. But yes, when we put in a lot of focus on culture, things start changing. And of course, so before I come to the next question, I think there's another question that has come out of what you have just said. The culture should be the major point of any organization, focal point. But of course, as HR, we can say that. But how many CEOs actually agree to that? Because it is a long-term investment. It doesn't the culture. If we are trying to drive any kind of culture, overnight it doesn't happen, right? So it takes a lot of time. So how many, and of course it needs, at times it needs some kind of investment also, at times it needs some kind of a different kind of thinking also. So it is a kind of question from all. So how do CEOs or maybe the leaders uh, go along with this, agree to this?
So
Anybody can answer.
I can just add, because I was just talking about this. I think vision, it's very important to have the vision in place first. And the CEO, the top leaders, they will always be contributing to it. So if they are the ones who are setting the vision for the firm, they will definitely put efforts in all those places where they can see the progress, where they can see that they will be able to achieve their vision. So I think it's about having the right understanding of where the organization needs to go, and also understanding that culture may, it mostly gives those financial outcomes in the longer term, but it is up to HR, and that's where I see our role. How do we showcase that any investment in culture, you can start seeing those intangible gains right from the the beginning. You don't have to wait till 2 years, 3 years. You can start seeing that change right from the time we start undertaking this journey. And I think that's where the buy-in from the leadership is important, but it's also about how HR is able to present it.
Right. Very rightly said that initially we may say some, and we may see some intangible benefits, but then generally leaders talk about numbers. They say that one, I remember a long time back, there was a leader. I was like an executive, HR executive, like just starting my career, and that time one of my leaders had said, MD rather of the organization, he said that everything can be calculated, even the love can be measured. So you have to ask. So I mean, they generally talk about numbers. So of course we'll come to that as well, but generally it happens. But very nicely said, Vinita. So now my second question will be from Manas. Manas, of course, as we're talking about ROI, so what do you think that when business pressures, when business performance is generally under pressure, culture initiatives are often the first to face the budget cuts. Generally, it happens, everything. So whenever any kind of challenge, so these are the softest, this is the softest thing that can just get the budget cut. What do you think, that this is a mistake or it is not? And why do you think so, Manas?
So I think great question, man. Thanks for asking this. Uh, I believe the answer is it depends on how we define cultural initiative or culture as a whole. If culture is viewed as a series of standalone events or parks, then it is understandable why organization might reduce those costs during difficult times. However, if culture is seen as a foundation of how people work, collaborate, innovate, and serve customers, then cutting cultural investment can be costly mistake. So that said, I also believe leaders have a responsibility to prioritize wisely. Not every culture initiative delivers equal value. Tough times are an opportunity to evaluate which programs genuinely drive business outcomes, which are simply nice to have, and the focus should be shifting from spending more to spending smarter. For example, instead of eliminating uh, you say leadership development or employee recognition program or manager capability building, companies can redesign these initiatives to be more cost effective while preserving their impact. Transparent communication, regular feedback, and recognition often cost very little but have a significant influence to the morale and the performance of workforce. So, summary would be, and what I have said so far is that workplace culture is not a cost center; it's a value center. That's my
That's
view.
very nicely said. Very nicely said, Manas. It is not a cost center; it is a value center. Of course, many a times we see this thing, and as you had said that every we have to reduce, we may have to reduce the cost, but we have to preserve the benefits of it. So I think this is the generally this is the one of the KPI or KRA of every organization, that every year they have to work on their efficiencies, that they have to spend same money or less money, and they have to produce more out of that. So, but then when it comes to culture, of course, already I don't know how many organizations are spending a lot of money on that. We have few organizations, but then still they have to cut the budget. Still, it has to be maintained. The effect has to be maintained. But we have seen that once these things come down, at times we have seen when the employees get some benefit out of the organization, be it cultural benefit, be it in any kind of benefit from the organization. First few days it may sound or it may look like a delight, customer delight or employee delight, but after some time it becomes customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, or I would say then it becomes, after some time it becomes the expectation also that this has to be there, like for granted. And once this thing gets a cut, then some challenges also we face from the employees, some kind of resistance also, that they feel that things which were there earlier, now they are not there. So what do you say, Manas, around it?
So I think it's a evolving business scenario, and at the end of the day, we must ensure that we know that business exists to make money, and
Right.
but how we make money through people, and how people in an organization make money through a right set of cultural values, cultural system, process in place. So everything I would say is interlinked, and it is, I would say, you can say interconnected. It could be interfunctional or cross functional everywhere. So that means it cannot be like it, you just imagine a car, and you cannot imagine in a car to drive if four of your wheels are not in order or not in proper shape. So you cannot be saying
Right.
that I'll be giving more weightage to my front wheels, and I will be giving less weightage to my back wheels, and let me try driving. So it's impossible, right? So similarly, I believe business dynamics, culture, making money goes hand in hand, and it also, as you were discussing before, it also talks about how leadership walk the talk. The leadership communication is a key of cultural shift. If you are paying quarterly bonus and due to business dynamics you are not able to pay, you have a town hall, you have a closed group discussion, make people understand. And when people see the genuinity, when people see, yes, clear communication, transparent communication is a part of this organization's culture, they will be anyhow aligned with the thought process or discussion process, and they will say, okay, no worries, we understand, we are having a rough pace, our organization have got a clear cultural values, we get a cut in our quarterly bonuses, but once things become clearer, we'll be back with our quarterly PLP or quarterly incentives. So I believe this kind of communication, if we do it, then we can expect that culture is in right order. But again, the leadership ethos or leadership pronouncements are very, very important. Walk the talk is very, very important, and we as a HR need to partner with the CEOs to drive it.
Right, very, very nicely answered. I think this application on which we are talking, it doesn't have those smileys or appreciation thing. Otherwise, I've definitely clapped for you on this answer. So thank you, Manas. So
Thank you,
now
Mike.
coming to Rajiv, I think Rajiv was not available to
I'm
introduce us,
available.
himself. So now, Rajiv, if you can just tell us something about yourself, then I'll just throw the question on you.
Yeah. So good evening, everyone. My name is Rajiv Kumar. I work for Datrix Technology as a head human resources, and I've got more than 25 years of experience in HR, and I've handled all part of HR, including, like right from the employee experience, culture, transformation, change management, the merger acquisitions, and of course the routine HR work. And culture is definitely one of the very close aspect in my mind when I look at the HR leadership perspective. And yeah, and this is a very interesting forum. I'm looking forward to, Meg, because culture is a very, very important aspect when you look at the organizational growth, productivity, etc. And and I'm very happy that excited that I'm a part of this uh, webinar.
We are equally happy, Rajiv, to have you here. Right. So I'll now next question is for you, Rajiv. So I'll tell you that some time back, I also had seen in some of the organization. Once one of my HR head, again I was pretty young at that time. One of my HR head had said he was just discussing it with someone, and he said that somebody had come from outside, and the guard misbehaved with that person, and of course he had sent him back. And he said that while this person, maybe Henry, his name was Henry, Henry was the CMD of that organization at that time. He said while Henry was the CMD, how can this culture happen that the guard has misbehaved with that person and sent him back? So that was a kind of thing that, I mean, at a very young age it stuck me. So now again, one very important thing: culture is what people do when nobody's watching. So Rajiv, my question to you is culture primarily built by HR, or it is an ultimate responsibility of business leaders? As Manas was also saying that the leaders should walk the talk. Who should accountability truly lie with?
Good question you have
Rajiv, are
asked,
you
and
there?
I'm very happy that I been asked this question because yeah, I'm there. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you're audible. Some disturbance, but still you're audible.
Okay, so it's a very yeah, a network issue, man. So it's a very, very good question, I would say, and probably this has been in discussion almost like since like a lot of decades. I have been discussing about this, and I've witnessed this question multiple times. So, and I will start with this point that a lot of people they feel that HR is accountable for the culture, and it is a myth because we always link culture to all goody thing, which is not the culture, which we always mean. So, culture starts with leadership, and HR is, I would say, as an enabler facilitator. So, when we talk a culture, it's a very broader aspect. It's not only that partying and doing something. It is more like a holistic approach where what is my behavior, how are you, translating all my practices to the people, how are we communicating. So it's a plethora of entire practices and processes, and that makes the culture of the company. So definitely it has to come from the leader. They need to be accountable. Responsibility can be shared by all, not only HR but employee, HR, and leadership as well. But HR plays a very key role in building the culture of the organization by making the good talent practices, communicating the values to the employees. Then the framework to drive the culture, and where HR plays a very pivotal and very key role in terms of building the culture in the organization. But when it comes to the accountability, it is a leadership accountability, I would say. So, and many a times I believe that culture is not something that you can write a process and the culture is done. It has to build, and it has to reflect it to the behaviors. And most important is that leaders have to display the cultural behavior in within themselves. Example, many companies will say that I have a kind of open door policy. How many leaders are keeping their doors open? When my value says we are very transparent, are we transparent? And this has to come from the leaders, that we are transparent, that we mean that we are transparent. When we say we are a very the forward thinking company, is my behavior giving me those kind of indicators that I am encouraging forward thinking? When I say that it is a walk the talk and talk the walk, am I really doing that? Or I'm just walk the talk doing, and I'm not doing the, talk the walk. So this means a lot, and it has to come from leaders, not from the employee, not from the HR. So at the end, I would say that leaders are the, I would say the ownership, they are accountable. HR is the facilitator and maybe the enabler to for the culture, and entire the company, like including employees, HR, and leaders are the collective responsible for the culture, Mac.
Right, Rajiv. I mean, if I just try to summarize what you have just said, is that HR can actually drive the culture, but the responsibility lies with all of us. And of course, leaders should
All
walk
of
the
us.
talk. I again,
Yeah,
all of us. So I'll tell you again some. I mean, because of what you have just said, again, incident came to my mind. Long time back, I was working with an organization. It's a true incident. So I was working with an organization. I was checking the induction, and in that induction, I was just telling everyone that this is an organization in which we, from Mondays to Thursdays, we are into formals, and Fridays we can be in our casuals and we can wear in denims. So it was very strictly, it was told to me that this has to be communicated to every employee or every people who are attending the induction. Next day I just did that, and next day I saw the HR head. It was a weekday, and I saw HR head was in tenants. So that, I mean, I thought that I just, with so much of intensity, I said this thing, and the next day when you see a senior leader, especially HR leader, uh, being, I mean, not following that, then I think how many people will actually follow that. So absolutely said, it is not about only the HR person, it can be another person who could, maybe a leader. If that person is not following, people will not follow that at all. And when we
correct.
talk about culture, of course, we say that, of course, we talk about good things. The bad things also happen in a culture. Maybe if a leader or maybe a senior person is shouting on the subordinate in front of everybody else, that will also become a culture. Other people will also start doing it, and nobody will be able to stop them, because how
Yeah,
will I tell the other person, or how as HR will be able to say to it that you don't have to do it, because then they will pinpoint. So of course, as you very rightly said, the responsibility is all of us, but we can of course drive. So if something has been said by the leaders, or it has been said by the leadership team, so we all have to follow, including the leadership team, as you said, that we have to walk the dog. If we say that we are a cost effective organization, we all will. If we have to travel, we have to travel by economy class. So leaders should not be traveling by maybe business
correct.
class, because that would also set the wrong example. That is how we should do.
So one thing I want to add
Right.
here, man.
Yes, yes.
So, behaviors are very important when you talk about the culture, not the processes. So, there are many examples like, cafeterias for all, then, MD can sit with us and have the lunch. Second is that business,
Right.
as you talked about, that it has to be the same for everyone, right? Then, the tone has to be, it is similar for everyone, including the, the blue collared, white collared, or employees, right? So this is the way we define the culture. And culture, again, it's a practice. It's not that, I mean, I have written somewhere and I'm not following. So important is that as a leader, am I really displaying it or not? Is it in my DNA or not? If yes, then I can talk about it. Example, that when I am telling my team that you are not on time in office, am I really coming on time first? So first I need to display those kind of behaviors within myself, and that has to come from leader, because employees look at leaders, that am I really behaving the way they expect us to be employed to behave. If that is happening, then we can set up the right culture. And second is the value aspect, that whatever values we define, that defines the culture of the organization. You will see that many company will have a different values, but they need to live to the values. This is the way I believe culture can be set up in any company. If company has certain values which is talking about integrity, then we need to have all the processes which is ZTP, zero tolerance for any ethical issues. If I'm not following that, maybe I'm not following to my values, right? Similarly, humility, collaborations, we talk about many aspects, but am I really following it as a leader or not? If not, then probably it is not the right culture. So it is rightly said that it's not very easy to just see, and culture is set up in the company. It needs to be lived, it needs to be demonstrated, and through your examples, and that has to come from leaders, not from HR.
Right. So one more thing again from your answer, another thing came to my mind long time back. Because I've also worked with few organizations. So I worked with with a insurance organization also. So I was just working over there, and then I got to know, I had just joined. I got to know that some person was within the organization. He did some kind of unethical activity. I mean, some related to money. Something unethical was done, and then he was asked to leave from that organization. After some time, that person associated with the organization, and organization started doing business with that person, because it was beneficial for the organization. Also, he became the agent, or I think somehow he became a person associated with the organization from outside as a freelancer, and then he started giving business to the organization. So what do you think that this kind of if this with this incident, what people will think about the organization? They will think that, okay, we can work with if it comes to the profits, or if it comes to revenue, we will be happy to work with the person who was actually asked to leave on the unethical grounds. uh, What do you all have to say about it? Anyone? Before I come to Uruz, Uruz, I have a different question for you, but before that, if you can answer this thing also.
I
I mean,
will.
what
I
do you
will.
think?
I will take up this question for you. In fact, I've also faced similar situations where I was hiring, a lot of people from the insurance segment while I was in the real estate sector, and we did notice there were certain, unethical activities that were being observed, and some of the, employees were asked to leave. When this kind of situation arises, I think it's a very thin line that defines the ethics of the and the ethos of the organization, right? And largely, the decision rests with the management. We as employees, we as HR, professionals, can we can actually put forward, the recommendation from our end, but the larger decision always rests with the management. Now, whatever they decide, let's say they decide to pursue that this person can be an agent, but how does that reflect on the organization? Because people like us would have questions that we, in the first place, his ethics were not right, his or her ethics were not right, and we decided to, exit him from the firm. However, on the other side, the person is giving, business to the organization. So does that really construe to be on the right side of ethics? So I think it's a very thin call for the management, a very difficult call for the management. As far as HR is concerned, my recommendation would be a clear cut no, because this behavior is going to spread across the entire board, right? Because it's going to stem from the bottom, and it's going to be a bottoms up kind of an approach, where it spreads from one agent to another agent to a third agent, and it becomes an example that, fine, today if I'm doing something which is unethical for the organization, I have another route to, to stay in touch with the organization. How detrimental it can be, because it mars the reputation of the organization in the longer run. It impacts the quality of intake of employees that you have, the candidates that you get. So there are a lot of repercussions, attached to it. How far is the company to ready to take that kind of a hit on the reputation, on the quality of intake of the candidates, and thereafter the retention, so on and so forth. So this will play a very, very important role in terms of taking up this holistic decision.
Absolutely correct. But in reality, of course, as you said, that all of us will recommend the same thing as HR, as people who drive culture. But then ultimately, at times we have to, maybe at times we our things will be agreed. At times, most of the times, at least in this regard, where an organization is getting some kind of benefit, uh, I find some challenge over there, because not this is not the one incident. There have been multiple incidences like this that I've seen. Anyway, so now Uruz, now my next question is to you. I mean, we it is also said that culture is the only competitive advantage that competitors cannot easily copy. Now, if we talk about 2030, 5 years from now, what cultural capability will differentiate winning organizations from the rest, and why do you think that will happen?
So, as we're talking 5 years down the line, from today, by 2030, I feel continuous learning and adaptability will become cultural capability of any organization, which are basically high performing organizations. And that would basically be the differentiating factor for high performing, firms. So, when I say, when I say continuous learning and adaptability, because we're in the age of disruption. I think we all acknowledge this point. We're in the age of disruption, where disruption has become the norm. It's no more something which happens once in a blue moon, but it is a norm, and it is very important for organizations to remain agile. Now, there is a report by World Economic Forum. I think there's a jobs report 2025, where they say that by 2030, 39% of the core skills of the workforce is going to change. Now, can you imagine? We can take a pause and we can think about it. That 39% of the core skills, 39% of workforce core skills is going to change. What it basically means, it's going to adapt to the changing times. We are living in the age of artificial intelligence. Can we say no to its intervention, or can we say yes to its intervention, or can we embrace it? I think the ideal answer is to embrace it, right, rather than kind of deflecting it or being defensive about it. So when the core skills of 39% of your workforce is going to change, which is a huge number, what does it basically indicate? I'll quote a few examples around it. Let's say, we have a finance professional, right? Somebody who's very adept in terms of preparing those reports for you, financial models for you. I mean, as of now, as of yesterday, the finance professional was supposed to prepare that financial model for you. But now, with AI's intervention, the input that one would look at, the leadership one would look at, is how do you interpret the data, because you have AI tools which will help you prepare those financial models. So when I look at a finance leader, the expectation would be that what is the data interpretation and what is your recommendation basis those models, right? So there is a shift of a shift happening out there, that no more it's a mundane or a clerical job. Now it has become more of data interpretation. And we also see finance professionals learning Power BI or dashboards, so that they're able to represent the data in a much more structured and a refined format. A second example that I would want to quote is that of an HR professional, right? Because most of us come from the HR fraternity. So, as of yesterday, most of us were dependent upon Excel trackers, and there's a mundane way of conducting interviews, a manual process. But now we are talking about AI intervention also in terms of conducting the interviews. You've got bots in place, you've got ATSs of the world, and there are far more advancements where the HR professionals also have basically prepped themselves up to become adept to this particular stage. So I think there are various examples that can be quoted, and by 2030, this is going to be the mantra for everybody, that if you have to stay relevant to the times, if you have to stay competitive, you've got to be agile. Continuous learning and adaptability will make the differentiating factors for you. So because AI's intervention is so strong as of now, that organizations who continue to basically encourage continuous learning, continue to experiment. Now experimentation is also equally important, right? Research, experiment,
Right,
and
right.
firms who basically encourage you to be agile, will be the ones who would be leading right from the front. So I think that's what 2030 is telling us right now.
That's correct. Very nicely said, Uruz. Continuous learning, as you had said, of course, we have been hearing about it since long, and of course, there are many people who are actually people and organizations who are talking about it. Some of them have adapted it also, and of course, 2030 is going to be like that. And as you had said, disruption, disruption is continuously happening. Disruption is
Yes,
happening so much that we have, I think, all of us have stopped being shocked on anything,
correct.
surprised on anything that this has happened. This is the level of disruption that is happening these days, and of course, so we don't know. Of course, we can of course assume that in 2030 what can happen. We can try to assume, but in 2030, or we'll only get to know about it by 2029, I guess, because things are changing at
I
that
think the
pace,
indicators
and
are
of
already
course,
there.
disruption.
I think the indicators are already there. We basically have to learn to embrace it. And the sooner we do it, I think the better it is for all of us, that we embrace 2030 with those kind of, changes or disruptions.
Right. I also interpret from you what you have said, that when maybe CFOs are also trying to do something. Earlier they were doing something else, and now some XL, we have a different expectation from them, or the management has a different expectation from
Yes,
them. So this also means that AI is actually helping us reduce the non-value added work, and now they are talking about a little work which is a little on the higher level. Value
absolutely.
added things are only required, because there are so many non-value added things which are being taken care of by AI, and that is
Absolutely. I
how.
think that
Uh,
is where we need to leverage artificial intelligence, where we can curtail the clerical work and try to focus on something which brings value addition to the organization, which eventually is progress for any organization, right? And this is not just for somebody sitting at a leadership level. I am even talking for somebody who's at a shop floor level. Right now, you might have a mechanic or a technician who's operating at the shop floor, but how is he using, or he or she using IoT, Internet of Things, to basically speed up their work and give better results, give basically more quality results. So I think all these factors, when you combine and when you see it on a larger spectrum, not just for leadership or for the middle management. I'm talking about everybody, right from the workman level to the highest level of any organization. It's going to be an integrated part of their work style, of their work life. And that is why I keep on repeating continuous learning, though it is a very age old concept, but it is something which is here to stay forever. The definition changes with passage of time. Today we're talking about artificial intelligence, tomorrow we'll be talking about emotional intelligence. So the topics might change, the definitions might change,
right,
but
right,
it is the reality.
right. Very rightly said, Uruz. So, anybody else, I mean, wants to add anything to over here in this?
So, Mike, I want
Vinita,
to add
Aman?
on. on the culture in 20 by 2030. And what I
Yes,
feel that today we are talking about a very diverse, the generation we are talking about today. We have everyone, on the in the company, and where we still believe that Gen Z is upcoming, and we are seeing how we need to manage them. I think by 2030, we will see a reverse side. So they will be more becoming very senior. They will be getting leadership roles and all. And then imagine how the culture will transform. I personally believe that 2030 onward, they will start, looking at culture very differently. Probably, I feel that more flexibility, more freedom, the more Gen Z approach, more tech, more, those kind of things will happen that will transform the culture. So I think by 2030 onwards, Gen Z will start driving more culture, and you know that what we mean here. So it will be purpose for all the work we are doing, lot of questioning, and they will be like, so the entire perspective will change when we look at the culture today and maybe by 2030, and that will be totally driven by, the Gen Z mindset.
right, right, Rajiv. So, I mean, of course, this has just given triggered another question as of now. Of course, once we are talking about culture, and you said that Gen Z, I mean, Gen Z is a N
Yeah.
word these days, of course. So, so by like 2000, now that is something a little scary thing that I'm going to ask. By 2030, you said that Gen Z will be the leadership. Of course, that is going to be a good thing. But when we generally talk about Gen Z, of course, Gen Zs are also, it is not, I mean, there's not a signature style of Gen Z, of course, that we have seen in some time. Of course, it was all for the negative reasons or maybe some positive reasons. But then generally, what we have seen, and people are calling them Gen Z, I think that they are much sincere and like good quality Gen Zs are also there, which are actually working and doing their work sincerely. But then one common perception about Gen Zs is that they are whatever things they don't like, they immediately call it toxic, or they said that no, I don't want to work on that, or I don't want to deal with that. But don't you think that this kind of I mean, once they are thinking about themselves only, about their own convenience only, how, I mean, what will they do once they become the leaders? How will that, of course, I mean, I might be a little myopic over here, might become a little myopic over here, but then because you as a leadership team or as a leader, you have to think about so many people, right? You have to think about the organization also, and you have to understand that what should we do with those many people, that they also happily contribute to the vision of the organization. But once we are talking about only ourselves, then it will be a little difficult. So what's your take? I mean, I might be a little myopic over here, or may not be looking at the bigger picture. So if anyone can answer over here, I mean,
I
just
think,
discussion.
Mayank, I'll love to take up this question because we've got quite a few Gen Zs in our organization,
That's
and
excellent.
I think this evolution happens in every organization. It happens, in every day, age, and space. We all have to walk some path, right? Some path has to be walked by us, and some distance has to be basically, walked by the Gen Zs. Now it is understandable that this particular generation, the kind of patience level and resilience we at times, find it missing, and that is why, they might end up saying very quickly that the work environment is toxic, and I prefer a much better work-life balance. Now that's become the code these days, that I want a work-life balance, and they immediately, if they find something which is not suited to their needs, they would immediately want to call it off without even thinking twice that if I have a job or in my hand or not. But we need to also understand that eventually we'll have more Gen Zs in our organization, right? As we grow,
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct.
as we grow, right now that we might have just 5% or 7-8%. Tomorrow we might have 20-30%. Are we going to sit here continuously and crib about the same thing, that Gen Zs are less resilient or less of patience? No, right? So as smart HR, we've got to be proactive about it, and we've got to build our culture
Correct.
accordingly. So as proactive HR, you have to communicate this to your management continuously, that there has to be some change in your working culture. For example, we cannot expect a work from office continuously. This is something which I get to hear a lot. There are scenarios where you'll have to become hybrid or maybe a work from home permanently if the situation permits, or if the setup of the organization permits you like that. So one has to be open. You've got to have high tech solutions. How do you monitor your workforce, sitting from a variety of locations? So, but give them that benefit that with age they will also learn a lot of things. We also learn a lot of things, as we grew up the ladder, right? Everything didn't
Absolutely
come to
correct.
us right at day one. So I think that kind of leeway, that kind of relaxation has to be given to them. And there will be a lot of counseling, there'll be a lot of talking which will be required, which we also do continuously in our organization. And I get to hear from my other fellow HR counterparts that this is what we do. So there is a mile to be walked by us, maybe 2 or 3 miles, and maybe 1 or 2 miles by the Gen Zs.
Yeah, that's of course that's the fair expectation. We should
My,
expect them also to walk a mile. Yes. I think
yeah,
Manas
mind
is
if I
trying to say
just
something.
add what my two
Yeah.
previous speakers have added in similar line. So it's a known concept, the Peter principle. We all know, right? On management, it says that employees in a hierarchy are promoted based on their success in current role rather than their ability for future role. So I would like to link it with Gen Z as well. So probably yes, they are at, I would say, entry level role or starting of their career, but they are a smart set of workforce, and I'm optimistic with them because they are a quick learner. They will be understanding the business dynamics, and could be. I hope I will not be wrong on that. They could be better leaders when they position themselves into leadership position. So that's what I thought because they will be learning, they will be seeing ups and downs, and they will be also going through some kind of failures. Yes, their patience may be a little bit less, but over a period of time, they will also, I think, accumulate that as well.
Excellent. I'm really happy to be surrounded with so many optimistic leaders. And it is really, I mean, it is really good to know that people, we all are thinking that, of course, they are Gen Zs, what we have seen. That is not the only picture. There are Gen Zs who, when become leader, they will be better leaders than us, than the current leaders. And that is really, I think we can call it music to our ears if that happens. Uh,
Yeah, so
so,
I
of
also
course,
just wanted to.
yes,
Sorry, man.
please,
I thought I'll
please,
just add my a bit also here. I think every
please.
generation brings their own personality, their own traits, and with Gen Z also they have their, I would say, own strengths. In fact, we see a lot of young leaders, young entrepreneurs. In fact, when you look at the world's richest men, women, most of them are young if you look at that demographic, right?
Yes.
So I feel that they bring a lot of capabilities which perhaps the other generations can learn from them. And the good attribute where I feel the Gen Z brings is that they are very direct. If they don't like something, they will say, and in a way that's an opportunity for the organizations to work upon. Of course, they are impatient, they want things fast, and they look at their life not just as work completely, but they also want to see the life holistically, and which is right in their sense, right? Because they don't want to work the way the previous generations have worked. So they also have a merit, I think, in what they say. It's just about their perspective and approach. But yeah, I think it's a transition for everyone. And we are just talking about Gen Z. There is Gen Alpha, then Beta, and so on. So we are going to see multiple generations coming in, and there would be many generations working together at the same time, which has started to happen already. So I would say that it's always about learning from each other and looking at things with a positive intention. That's what I do.
Right.
So yeah.
I like this. I like this. I like the discussion where it is going from, where it has started and where it is going. So I can connect over here that the discussion topic was the ROI of culture. So I think now I can see
Yeah.
the ROI of culture, return on investment on the culture, can be a good leader in 2030, which is today actually a Gen Z, whom we are calling a Gen Z. So if we are creating that kind of culture, keeping everybody in mind, so probably we'll have a better leader in 2030, a set of better leaders whom we call Gen Z today. They actually do really good over there. But then, of course, as you said, that they also have to walk a mile at this point in time. What we see, of course, I personally have also seen some really good Gen Zs who are very sincere in their work. I mean, two of them. I can see that they are behind the stage on this particular show also. I've met them and I've seen them, that the way they work. So this is good. So I think Uruz talked about one of the things that Uruz talked about was hybrid working or work from home kind of thing. So I have another question. It is open to all if you want to answer. I mean, whosoever wants to answer that. So the question is that in today's hybrid and AI-driven workplace, what aspects of organizational culture have become more important than ever, and what traditional practices have become less relevant? So we'll talk about the exact
I'll,
practices
I'll
now.
take that, Mayank. I'll take a lead on this one. So I think as we talk about a lot of hybrid and change of workplace settings and workplace ambience, trust has become one of the most important factors, right? So for example, we have a firm which is migrating from a work from office to a hybrid or complete work from home. How you trust your employees, because ultimately what you want to drive is the outcome, isn't it? Or do you want to go through the entire process? So the organizations and the managers, the middle management layer and the upper management layer have to start focusing on the possible outcomes. We are no more talking about processes can always be discussed in brief, because earlier we used to have detailed conversations around processes. Now we are more focused upon the outcome. You're working from home, these tasks have been assigned to you, allocated to you, this much time was given to you. Now has the task been delivered or not? And what are the various areas how we can enable you, coming from a tech standpoint or any other facility standpoint, that can enable you to give these results on a faster basis, because the expectation also rises, isn't it? When an organization is giving you that kind of a facility, you're no more allowed to, you're no more allowed, you don't have to travel to work every day. So how do you utilize that kind of time towards an organization? Second, I think a lot of technology intervention would be there in place, because it will involve, organizations would want to do some kind of monitoring or other, till the time we come to that level where we don't have to do so much of monitoring. So trust, along with technology, along with the right kind of evolved KRAs or KPIs, because when we don't talk about processes so much anymore and we are so focused upon the outcomes, how do you do the performance management? How are your KRAs and KPIs defined? How do you define your training and development, the learning and developmental activities? All of this will go through some kind of change or other when we migrate from the regular style of working to a hybrid or a complete work from home setup.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. So of course, this expectation that you said, that of course once they also have to, once they are getting the facilities, or once anybody gets, it's not about Gen Z, it's about anybody who's getting the facilities
Yeah.
of working from home, then of course some expectations will also be there from them, and they also have
Yes.
to live up to that. Now many a times we see that they are living up to the expectation. Many a times we don't see that. But of course, as you said, that this thing has to come. Everything comes at a cost as well. So you're right.
Absolutely.
Right. And anyone else wants to add here?
Pertaining to hybrid work,
So
my
maybe
belief is that,
I, yeah, sorry.
yeah, go ahead, Benita, go ahead, no worries. Okay,
Vinita, you're on mute again.
I think she's asking me to go ahead, it seems.
Yes,
Wow.
please go ahead, Manas.
Okay, so I'll just make it brief. So I believe hybrid or mixed one or only online, offline, or whatever terminology you use, it depends in two factors. One is the culture. Second one is a type of organization. So, for example, I represent an infrastructure sector. I have offices in Delhi, Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Chennai, but predominantly my workforce sits in project location where they do industrial projects. So for the industrial projects people, there is no option of work from home. They have to go to the plant, get the construction activity done. But for office based, yes, there are possibilities. But again, what culture we are going to project, that office based are availing work from home, site based people or project based people are not availing work from home, or are we giving some kind of leeway to a specific set of people or specific set of designation or specific set of function? I think it depends organization to organization, organization's maturity to adopt it based on the changing scenario, because we are also getting quite a young Turks, or I would say Gen Z guys, and they will be also demanding, or they will be saying that you should be bordered so far the work is getting done. It should not be bordered how where it is getting done. So that would be a normal, I would believe, demand or expectation from the office-based Gen Z people. So it depends on the organization to organization. It depends on the culture of a particular organization, and we cannot have a, I would say, uniform or standard rule across.
Right, Manas. Very right. Nicely said.
So maybe
Yes, Vinita, you're
I
also saying
can
something.
just quickly add that technology can easily be implemented. So when COVID came, many organizations move to remote working in a few days time. It's very easy to do that, but what is more difficult, and that's where I see the change is required, is the mindset, the behavior, right? Just because you worked all your life in office, you expect your team to come to office even after, we are operating, say, in a hybrid setup or a remote setup. I think that's where I feel the managers, the leaders, not to bring in the proximity buyers, how they engage the distributed teams, how they drive inclusion within their teams. I think those are the aspects which are so important, because it is actually very difficult to engage someone who is just on camera. And at the same time, the behavior on part of the people who are working remotely, are they following the right set of behaviors? So when they are on camera, they need to turn on. They cannot be just turning off the camera. They need to show their visibility. So I think that's where everybody has to contribute to making the remote working or hybrid working successful. And that's where the behavior change, the mindset change has to come, and that's more difficult than technology.
That's excellent. So we have to put in, so whatever comes in, so we have to put in, given some kind of definition and some kind of rules and regulations, and everyone has to follow that. So whatever, so only we cannot talk only about convenience, but then convenience also comes with some kind of rules and regulations, and it comes with boundaries also. So we have to respect the boundaries. Absolutely, very nicely said, Vinita. So anything else? Anything else? Rajiv, Manas, Vinita, Uruz, you want to add? I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
just
time
want
for
to
us
add
to
here.
conclude this
Yeah, quickly, I
discussion.
want
Yes,
to
but
add
before
here
that, yes.
because
Yes,
yeah,
Rajiv.
I just want to add, Mayank, that we are in a transformation phase, post-COVID, that hybrid, full time, and you see that again things are changing. Now people started with remote, then hybrid, and now people are also talking about coming back to office as well, because they realize few things are missing as well. But Vinita also said very rightly that it is the mindset, it is the organization. Organization, it depends,
Yeah.
and also that at our time we worked throughout in the office, and see a lot of people after COVID they never worked in office, so they don't know how the office culture is. What is the office culture we are talking about? How does it make a difference? So this is something, a cultural aspect. We need to look at it. But if I look at from the entire my experience, what you're missing here is the camaraderie, connect with the people, getting that bonding. It is missing completely today. If someone feel is not well, I don't think so people are really feeling, about that person. So that is completely gone. We just look at the deliverables, we look at the outcomes, and that's it. Am I doing my job? That's what you should look at. But that is a Gen Z tone, etc. But maybe long run, I believe that we need to trade off between the hybrid and hybrid, or maybe working in office. That will be the best culture. That is the best way to look at the working environment. Either full remote or full working may not work, but maybe we have to trade off between the two.
Yes, yes. So that's absolutely rightly said, Rajiv. And what you said, that we see all day long on Instagram, that your office people are not your friends, and then you don't have to get along with your
Yeah,
office people. You just have to go there, work, come back, no emotion. So I mean, this is all
no emotions,
being,
no emotions. Yeah,
this is what they say, but in reality that doesn't actually, I mean, consciously if someone try to do that, that's a separate thing. But then once you're going to office, emotions are already there, some kind of emotions already there, some connect is already there. But then of course, as you
I can
said,
give you one
that
example.
completely work from home. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
please.
So one example, like there was a farewell, one person was going, he said, nobody did my farewell. So imagine, so in our time, people used to, maybe cry that, oh, my friend is leaving, today's last working day, gifting and all, entire team will do the farewell in office. Today, that person is just say goodbye mail and that's it, is gone. He said, nobody did my farewell because there's no connect, there's no bond. You are gone today, people have forgotten you, from the very next day. So I personally believe that coming to office is a good aspect. And I say from the camaraderie, connecting, then you can, I think the productive will be better when you come to office, you meet with people, collaborate, step to each other's, as well. So this is what I personally believe. So maybe we have to work
I
between the
strongly
two. Yeah.
agree. So I mean, we have to go, as Uruz has said, that 1 mile has to go from him or us, and 1 mile has to come from them. So I think that in the middle path is that it is the best working way is
Correct.
hybrid, wherein at times we are like once or twice or thrice a week we are going to office. Rest of the time we are maybe negating that traffic time and using that time in something productive. So that
Correct.
we are also fresh. I mean, we are meeting good, bad, ugly people, of course, in the organization, wherein at least that gives us some kind of energy, and that is how we go along. And that is, and instead of talking about only work-life balance, there's another word that we can coin over here, and that is work-life integration. So, wherein work is also as important as our personal life is, because in any case, we
Correct.
have to add value, or we have to contribute to the organization or to the society. And by doing our work, somehow, if we look a little deeper, then of course we are actually contributing something to our society, something to the world. Then only we are getting some value as well. So very nicely said, everyone. I think it was a wonderful discussion, I would say. I really enjoyed this discussion. And as we conclude, one message stands out clearly from this discussion is that workplace culture is not an expense. It is actually an investment that delivers measurable returns through people, performance, and purpose. And of course, as you said, in the life also, be it personal life or the professional life. So my sincere thank to each one of you, Manas, Vinita, Uruz, Rajiv, for sharing your insights, and to everyone who joined us today. So thank you to the incredible workplaces for bringing us together. So thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
for
everyone.
Thank
It
you,
was
Mayank.
great
It was a
to have you on
wonderful
the
Thank
show.
you, ma'am.
session.
Pleasure to
Thank
meet
you.
with all. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and hope to see
Thank
you
you.
soon again.
Sure.